And I'm here. And I'd like to start off with a little story, if I may, after having 24 hours of something trying to get out of my body through whatever orifice is possible. A priest stood before his congregation and he said, "I'm going to show you today how terrible the drink is for you." I don't drink, but go with me. He pulls out, "I have here a glass of water. I have here a glass of whiskey. And here I have a worm. Watch this." Bloop. Drops the worm into the water. Pulls it out. Worm still alive. See that? Now, take the same worm. Drop it into the whiskey. Bloop. Pull it out. The worm is dead. So what is the moral of the story? The man stands up and he goes, if you drink whiskey, you'll never have worms. I figured I'd just try to cheer us up right out of the gate. I had a fairly solid 24 hours of just not pleasant gurgling going on in my stomachy area, and I'm way better now. It's one of those things like it came and went, but boy, that was a joy. I will say though that there's something that happens after something like that where you're like, well, whatever I had in my body that was bad for the last 3 years, it's all gone now. There's kind of an upside to that, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, that joke is, by the way, from Dave Allen at Large. I put up a Dave Allen at Large quote the other day, or yesterday. I don't know. I've lost all track of time. My brain went to fuzz. I have lost 5 pounds. It's true. Let's bring the chat in, by the way. Hi, guys. Where am I? Click onto me. Thank you. I love me some Dave Allen at Large. God's own comedian, they used to call him, and he was a lovely, lovely man. And thank you. Was it at least Hot Fuss? No. And the other, I have, my other favorite joke from Dave Allen at Large that I've known since I was probably 11 or 12 when I first saw it on they used to air British comedy shows on PBS, on KET and Kentucky Educational Television, and boy was it educational, on Sunday nights. And so you could watch Monty Python, and then they would have Benny Hill, and you could see boobs, and so I was very interested. And they'd have Dave Allen on after that. It was like the latest show that was on, which is weird because I would flip flop them. I would say if you're gonna keep it kind of relatively clean, KET, you'd put Dave Allen first, then Monty Python, then Benny Hill. If you're still awake for Benny Hill, your parents are letting you, and you'll see whatever fat guy chasing chicks around all day long, like some sort of like bloated Hugh Hefner. But my other favorite joke of his, is too many dates. Maybe. My other favorite joke is a woman is laying next to a man and she goes, oh, it's terrible. My life is terrible. Oh, how will I face my family and my friends and the people of the village again? Oh, you've taken my honor. You've violated me. You've violated me in every decent element of my person. You took advantage of me, twice. Oh, terrible. And the guy goes, what? We only did it once. And she's like, you're going to do it again, aren't you? And that's... Say Benny Hill was more attractive than Hugh Hefner? Yeah, it depends on your type, I think. Who was the guy that sang political parody songs on PBS back in the day? Tom Lehrer? You think Tom Lehrer? Yeah, WTTW played Dave Allen before Doctor Who on Sunday nights. That's a great lineup. Mark Russell, there you go. Yes. We didn't have him, but they didn't play him. I think they're too political for Kentucky. Hi, Auntie Sarah, good to see you. Yes. You're a pair of twits. TW ideas, thanks. So welcome to the show. Thank you guys for joining me. Sorry I couldn't do a show in the afternoon tomorrow, but yesterday, yes, in the future. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing for things I haven't yet not done. Phew. I may be a little slow on the uptake today, by the way. And we have guests today. So I had to bring my best. Blue Gal and Mr. Electrico from Crooks and Liars are going to be joining us in the second hour. And boy, oh boy, I'll let them do most of the talking. I'll be fine. And I'm drinking coffee with butter in it, just to get some fat back into my body, I suppose. I am feeling better. Thank you for asking. All Tom Lehrer stuff is now public domain. That's lovely. Well, golly, I should just release a cover album of all the Tom Lehrer songs with modern production. What a great idea. And then give all the proceeds to charity. That'd be fun. Yep, Butta. Hello, Mutta. Hello, Fada. Here I am at Camp Granada. Camp is very entertaining. And they say we'll have some fun if it stops raining. Yeah. Abandoned ship. Is the screen blurry? I don't think so. I think I'm just far away. Hold on one second. And this guy right here should be, whoops. Should be up. There you go. A little bit. All right. Now, and this is all crowded. All my stuff looks wonky. Maybe it's just because I was feeling kableh. That's probably why. Do coffee with MCT oil. As a matter of fact, softball Saul, it's exactly what I'm doing. Fine this morning. I'm doing double caffeine, by the way. Double caffeine coffee, and because I have coffee pods that are 2X. Dun, dun, dun. 666 Super Chat. Welcome. Hi. If you want to support the show, a $6.66 Super Chat would be a way to do that. I'm too tired to say it well. With a tablespoon and a half of ghee. That's a form of butter, not a karate uniform, for the record. Important distinction in this house. And a tablespoon and a half of MCT oil. Yeah. So that's what I'm having this morning. I'm continuing the purge. Because anybody who's tried MCT oil, when they have, are new to it, please clarify which part. I'm moved on. Are you doing keto? No, I'm not. I just do the bulletproof coffee occasionally. But no, I don't do full keto. No. it's just an experiment, whatever. It's good, whatever. I'll tell you how it started. So I normally drink my coffee black. When I was visiting my cousin Bridget in Nashville, she and her husband own and run like 3 Orange Fitnesses. That's what they started doing. Like they invested their money and they started building Orange Fitnesses. So they've got like 3 of them down there. And interestingly enough, one of the trainers is a dancer from Las Vegas who used to do shows with Summer. Rando, crazy, very cool. Anyways, they do a lot of that stuff. They do Rittenhouse meeting, GOP House members. Why? I'll tell you why. It's all PR. Don't worry about it. I know, 43.5. We're almost to 44. We're going to hit 45 before the end of Thanksgiving if we keep up this, especially with the Exodus. People were like, I'll eventually subscribe to him. Long story. Anyway, so she makes bulletproof coffee for her and her husband in the morning and asked me if I wanted some. And I have to be honest, I've been interested in it for a long time. I've had it a couple of times there's a bulletproof coffee place in Venice that I used to go to all the time. My buddy Brooks and I would go there to write sometimes. But it was one of those things where I was like, how do you make it? It's weird. You have to use a blender. What's happening? Yes, Orange Theory. That's right. Sorry, did I say Orange Fitness? Orange Theory. I told you, I have food poisoning brain. So please cut me some slack and feel free to correct me if I say something if I use the wrong word in the right place. Yeah, that could happen. Anyways, thank you so much, Regina. More crackers. They're plugging agent. I'm not stuffing myself up with crackers, Regina. I'm fine. I'm not vegan. I was vegan for a few years. It was bad for me. So I am not vegan. But anyways, she fixed it and I just watched her do it. And it's amazing how sometimes that's just what it takes to click. You know, when somebody's like, you know, I made sure my girlfriend's son and my kid know how to hard boil an egg, for God's sake. And I can tell you that it's put them in cold water on the pot, achieve boiling, reach it up to 7 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's nonsense. Boil the water, lower them in, 11 minutes, take them out, put them in a bowl of ice water. That will stop them from cooking so they don't get green around the yolk. And then that's it. 11 minutes, already boiling water. Don't wait till it boils because people, it's wonky, it's stupid. Anyways, so I teach my kid you ought to know how to boil and fry an egg. You should know how to make a decent salad, right? At least one dressing you should be able to make on your own. You can buy most these days, but there you go. Yeah, you should make how to upgrade your ramen noodles with an egg. That's easy too. Teach your kid how to do that. So what you do is you're making your ramen in your pot as you do, and then you crack an egg in it. It's that simple. You're basically making egg drop soup in that, but it adds a level of protein to it that will be better than just eating fucking noodles. There you go. Yes, the shells fall off easier that way, Roderick. They are easier to peel. That is exactly right. So, but sometimes boil an egg and fry an egg. I didn't say boil a fried egg. I did not. Don't fuck with me. My brain's on a delay right now. Yeah, vinegar and oil is very simple, but balsamic vinaigrette, things like that. Like, there's a basic side dish I like to make for my own lunches, which is take an avocado that's ripe, cut it in half, cube it inside take the pit out, obviously. Cube it inside the rind, shell, skin, whatever. It's a nut, so I don't even know. I'm going with shell. And then you scoop it out, and then you put some balsamic vinegar on it, and salt and pepper. Awesome. Good natural fat, good healthy, addendum to a lunch. Terrific. Husk, thank you, Dragonflyer. Well, husk is good. I like husk in general. But it's a good side dish. And it should be cold so it's easier to eat. That's all. It shouldn't be, frozen or anything, but refrigerate your avocado for that because it's easier it'll stay more turgid and you can eat it with a fork. So, yeah. So anyways, seeing how something is made, like watching somebody do it is way, you're like, oh, okay. And the problem with like morning cooking shows, like that there are segments that they have on morning shows or cooking actual shows, they tend to cut a bunch of shit out. And you're like, yeah, but where was that? Excuse me, what was the? You're like trying to hover around what they're doing. But once you see it, you're like, okay, now I got it. All right, what's it supposed to look like? It's supposed to look like this. Okay, is it supposed to go like that? It's supposed to go like that. Okay, cool. Same thing was true of Bulletproof Coffee. It seemed relatively simple, but once you add the blender and how much and blah, blah, blah. So 8 or 12 ounces of coffee, whatever you like. A tablespoon and a half of ghee of butter. You can, any grass-fed butter is fine, apparently. And then a tablespoon and a half of MCT oil. That's how you make bulletproof coffee. You pour that, you add those in, you make your coffee, you take your coffee cup, you pour it into the blender mixer thing, blend it till it's frothy, and then pour it back out. You're up to 30 ounces. Is that bad? No, it's fine. No, it's totally good. You haven't developed I would argue that you need less coffee, more water. Because again, if you stop feeling the effects of caffeine, more than likely you're dehydrated. So if you, instead of a third cup of coffee, have a glass of water, you'll feel your energy go back up. I don't even know how we got on this topic. I feel all backed up from not being backed up. MCT oil. MTG oil is greasy and gross and will make you sick and give you Nazi-like tendencies. I'm kidding. Simmer down. Grass-fed butter is best but pricey. Never had ghee. Is it better than butter? It is butter. It's just Indian butter. But it's like there's, you know, depending on the quality of it, smells like knuckle. Thank you. Yes, just like my mustache on lab rats. Thank you. MCT is a study of 24 hours found that taking MCT oil combined with phytosterols and flaxseed oil for 29 days reduced total cholesterol by 12.5%. Yes, it's just generally good for your system. Tolerance is also a reason caffeine may be less effective. Yes, but it's also the way you lower, you get your tolerance lower is to have water instead of the extra caffeine. That's how you wean yourself off of too much caffeine. Trust me, I know. Over the years, having a fucked up touring schedule where I have to get up at 6 a.m. to do 3 radio spots and then go to sleep for an hour and then do 2 shows at night that are like an hour and 10 minutes long minimum each. You tend to like go, I think I'm a couple of days a week, I'm kind of overdoing it. So the way to do it to get out, it's the butter and the milk solids removed. So basically it's just fat. That's right. Clarified butter, right? The way you kind of go back to a normal tolerance of caffeine and the way you walk yourself out is had to get up at ass a.m. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Oh, God. I feel like ass. It's too early. Yeah, it's touring life. Grass-fed is meaningless beef industry PR. No, it isn't. They can cheat on it, but it's not meaningless to the actual thing. It's kind of like organic. Organic is a valuable idea, but then they can fuck with what organic means. That doesn't mean the word organic loses its meaning. It's that they're trying to do that, I would argue. I have a 12-pack of Jolt Cola. Jesus Christ. I feel like I've died and gone to 1987. I had a kid in my high school who did nothing but, like, he was a Jolt freak. And I'm like, I just gotta say, this is ass. This is bad. This is not good. Like, this can't turn out well. But then, like, Jolt was crazy back in the day. People were like, that's like taking caffeine pills. MCT oil is... it's a derivative of coconut oil. Most of the way, that's how you get it. Yeah. Grass-fed has higher level omega fatty acids. I also, when I eat eggs, I eat those, the ones that have been modified to have more omega-3s in them because it's good for your brain. But yeah, so Betsy, with the Jolt Cola thing, they were like, this is dangerous for children. It's terrible. And they're right. But they took it off the market a long time ago, and then energy drinks came along and they're like, oh, it's too much for these kids, and they're right. And then like Mountain Dew Shock or whatever the shit it's called. I don't drink Mountain Dew, so it has the extra caffeine Mountain Dew that they have. Has more caffeine than Jolt did back in the day, and it's not like it's not like we've evolved to be able to deal with that. Like kids born today have a bigger tolerance for caffeine than they did, in the 80s or the fucking 50s or the 1800s. What are you, nuts? Yeah. Your chickens equal my eggs. I don't know what that means. I don't know which one came first, but yeah. Yes. Medium chain triglycerides. There you go. But the MCT oil that most of you get, most of the time you'll get it from those things. Hold on. Let me make sure. I got to check time. Remind me if I get close to the bottom of the hour, because we haven't even checked our trends or what's left of this. This might be one of the last times we check trends together, kids. By gosh and by golly, or we might have to go over to Mastodon and do it, or Tribal. By the way, this is how Republicans, I guess, felt when Trump was kicked off Twitter, and they had to steam over to Getter and Parler and Truth and blah blah blah. By the way, if you'll notice, can I mention something while we go into the Mastodon thing? So you're confused. Okay, so Mastodon is an architecture, and you can set up multiple servers across. You name the server whatever you want, but your account is your account. It's your account, and so you can move your stuff, your account, whatever it is, to whatever server you want. So you could be on Mastodon. I'm on Mastodon.world. It doesn't really matter. It's just, it's about its functionality and how, as long as it stays up, okay? As a matter of fact, I'm seriously toying with the idea of setting up my own Mastodon server. So when I do, you guys will be the first to know. That said, the idea is that, again, they call it a decentralized social network, because your stuff doesn't stay on like Facebook servers or Twitter's servers or whatever. It can move to a myriad of them. It's much more aligned with sort of the blockchain idea, that it exists because it exists. It doesn't exist because of where it exists. See, my brain isn't as slow as I thought it was. Now, if you'll notice, one of the biggest ones that people are doing on, like one of the biggest servers people are joining is Mastodon.social, because it seems like the most normal. You need an admin? Let me know. Okay, Saucy. That'd be great. I'll farm that out. That would be terrific. So, and if that's the case, I'll more than likely move my Discord to that server. Now, and just make a Mastodon thing for everybody instead of paying for Discord and all that shit. Because, yeah, it's very expensive, and I hardly tap its resources because I have too many things to maintain. And I apologize to anybody who I haven't been on there enough, because I just can't. I'm adding shows. That's my whole thing. The whole purpose is to do these shows. So that's where my brain is most of the time. So once I get a big team like these assholes that I compete with have, then we'll talk. But until that point, yeesh. So Mastodon. If you'll notice, most people use that, like I said, that server, Mastodon.social. Everybody's jumping over to that one because it says social. My Mastodon is at HAL SPARKS. I'm on the Mastodon.world server. So Mastodon.world at HAL SPARKS. You'll see, if you find at HAL SPARKS, it'll show up like Mastodon.world. It'll show up as at halsparks.mastodon.world or whatever on your little thing when you're looking me up. Doesn't matter where you are, because you can look across servers. It doesn't matter. You can find accounts on other servers. They're all kind of interchangeable. And the great thing about Mastodon is that if you have a website like I do with the halsparks.com that I own, I can put server information on that site so that it acts as sort of verification. Like, that's the official one. So you can, that link will be, okay. Thanks, Ninka. I'm gonna set up a thing where I can buffer across all three to start fomenting more interesting stuff across them, as opposed to just, jumping from site to site, which is what we'll have to do temporarily if Twitter literally does take a shit between now and the funny thing is if it eats shit between now and December 6th, it's going to hurt the Walker the Walker campaign more than almost any other thing. The rest of us will go, oh, I guess it's down, and then it'll pop back up and look, hey, is my account still there? Blah blah blah. Tribal is like a democracy. Let me stay on topic because this is a lot for people to get. Mastodon, again, multiple ones. You can term the server whatever the fuck you want. You can create a dot something server. Well, if you'll notice, like I said, the most popular one right now that people are jumping on because I think it just has the word social in it and they think that's where you do social stuff, where they all do social stuff, is Mastodon.social. Counter Social, which I'm also on, is indeed its own account and yet also built on the Mastodon architecture. Technically speaking, I can take my Counter Social account, which is separate from my other Mastodon one, and align them so they're the same thing. Or I can take this one down and bounce this one over, or take this one down, bounce this one over, and just run it across all the formats from whatever my Counter Social one is. So on the Mastodon architecture, Counter Social is built using the sort of recipe behind the scenes of code of Mastodon, creates a server called counter.social, and that's where people go over and then they can build their own function. This is, by the way, why Trump's site is called Truth Social, because they built it on the Mastodon architecture. By the way, which is open source, and they didn't cite it. They got sued and then they had to cite it. So Trump really is Truth Social is I'm telling you is completely a Mastodon truth dot social name. And I guarantee they had to go with truth.social because somebody took Trump.social. I don't doubt that there's already a Trump site, or he would have done it. So anyways, he took that kind of thing. Let's see. There was really a good thread on moving to Mastodon by Ulrike Klinger on Twitter. Nice. Yeah, it's not as complicated as you think. It's just not. It wasn't built for this kind of structure right away. And everybody, since they're all decentralized servers, some people will jump on a bunch of servers and just pick one and go, I don't know which one to do. And they'll jump on these tiny servers that are not ready for the traffic, which is fine. And there will be an adaptation to it. And a lot of these servers will grow, and companies and other stuff will start building their own Mastodon things like, hey, come on over to Meta's Mastodon, blah, blah, whatever. You know what I mean? Or corporations could sponsor entire, Mastodon, adjuncts to their sites for all their employees or whatever. And you just have everybody can jump on the fucking NASA.social or whatever it is that works there. And so they just house their shit there, and then they can, interact with all the other servers that, like little neighborhoods. It's like phones calling across the country. You don't have to be in the same area code. It's like, all these servers are like area codes. And you can move to a new area code, but it doesn't change who you are. Truth is a Ponzi scheme for the early investors. Everyone else loses. Yes, but that was the beauty of it. But the whole thing was theft. It was born not for sale. There you go. So because it's, see this hosted by you business in there and how Mastodon is built. Well, I got news for you. Trump stole that, built a Mastodon at truth.social thing. It's built on the same fucking architecture. And he got caught. But that's where the name came from. I just wanted you to know that Truth Social came out of the name of having a Mastodon architecture, and they're too stupid to just call it, something else. It's just stupid. Yeah, so a bunch of people are jumping on, they're jumping, like this one, see hers, Mastodon.social, that short version. Mastodon.online. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people are getting into Mastodon.social. No, hence the truth.social thing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Twitter outages reported in the last 24 hours. Yeah, but that doesn't mean they happened. People could just be, missing it. So, anyways, Mastodon is not a site; it's an architecture. And at some point that'll be, a way to cover it. So untruth.antisocial.meh. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to this one though, because this is funny. He used us. This is trending. HuffPost and I think Waypo both did this. One of the big preachers, like the fucking day after. Let me see if I can scramble this up, make it a little bigger. This guy, Mike Evans. There was this. Is it Jeffries? No, that wasn't Jeffries. Warren Jeffries. Robert Jeffries is going to support him. One of the preachers cited in this story was basically saying that he used us and he took advantage of us and he turned our pulpit into something political. And yeah, he did that. He made that up. It's his fault. You fucking kidding me? You took advantage of me twice. Well, we only did it once. You're going to do it again, aren't you? That's basically it. That's the joke. That's the joke about evangelicals. I accidentally fell into that being one of the perfect metaphors. That joke is the perfect metaphor for the fucking evangelicals. Oh, Trump, you took advantage of me twice. I only did it once. You're going to do it again, aren't you? That's it. He used us to win the White House. We had to close our mouths and eyes when he said things that horrified us. I cannot do that anymore. There's not considered plunging poll numbers. Mike Pence, blah, blah, blah. Jeffrey said on Twitter he still considers Trump a great friend and our greatest president since Reagan. That wasn't a Bush. Whatever. Another one. James Robinson. That's the guy who did it. This guy actually gave a sermon this week. It's /speech. If Mr. Trump can't stop his little petty issues, how does he expect people to stop major issues? He called Trump regularly. Let's see if I can bring this article up because it's pretty great. So this dude, Irving, Texas, a televangelist this is pretty great, who served as a spiritual advisor to Donald Trump, says the former president has the tendency to act like a little elementary school child and suggests that Trump's focus on minor spats was preventing progress on larger goals. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, and Jesus, who? Yes, that's what we've all right. That's what I've been saying since that fucker showed up. You're just now learning this after he didn't get Mexico to pay for the wall and apparently finished it but didn't finish it, and he didn't show his taxes, and he didn't finish his healthcare plan, and he didn't have an infrastructure bill, and he didn't get us out of Afghanistan, and he had a tax break, but it was permanent for corporations and temporary for individuals. What'd he do? He got 4 states that were leaning very heavily red to vote down abortion restrictions in the state because he did such as this ham-handed bullshit activist SCOTUS thing after you guys were arguing for the longest time when gay marriage was happening that it was the activist SCOTUS shoving gay marriage down your throat, which is like quite the visual. If Mr. Trump can't stop his little petty issues, how does he expect people to stop major issues? Hi, I'm Major Issues, reporting for duty, sir. Now, watch this, though. This is the fascinating part. This is the part that sticks out to me. Said Wednesday night at a meeting of the National Association of Christian Lawmakers. The what now? Sharia says what? My Sharia. My Sharia. All right. I found that in the garage. It was in a box of my kids' stuff that had gotten worked downstairs. I'm like, the battery still works on that? That's a miracle. Anyways, members of the NACL pledged to advocate for anti-abortion policies and to uphold the sanctity of marriage as a sacred union exclusively between one man and one woman, among other commitments. Okay, first of all, fucko, let me explain something to these idiots, because this bugs me. All right, shrink down, stupid. I gotta make this smaller so you guys can see all the text. Okay. Arguing for anti-abortion policies does nothing to stop abortion. It doesn't. It gets women killed. It's unhealthy. It makes a moral argument a legal one, and therefore removes all the morality out of it. If you don't commit murder because it's wrong, you're acting morally. If you don't commit murder because there's a cop watching, you're not a moral person. Now, in this endeavor, they may say, I don't give a shit as long as it doesn't happen, but don't pretend you're making a moral case. You're moving into the liar realm of Christianity, where it's not a lie if I'm lying for Christ. Shut the fuck up. You're immoral. You do not have faith if you believe that you have to manipulate people to get them to act morally. Now, secondly, if you're advocating for marriage as between one man and one woman, here's an idea. First of all, if any of your preachers get divorced and remarried, what the fuck are you talking about? Secondly, don't support somebody like Donald Trump, who just moves on to the newer, younger model every 14 years or 8 years or whatever the fucking cycle is. Man's been married 3 times. He'll be married a 4th. If he lives, if he survives as an old person. He'll get and that's if he doesn't if Melania is like, fuck it, you can have Alina Habba, she can take one for the team. He'll dump her and get married again. And this is, I really think the only reason he's staying with Melania at this point is so that he can run again. That's just my personal feeling. The Bible is polygamous, just saying. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, again, it was a lot easier to pledge your life to somebody when people lived to be 37 years old. You must respect your elders. How old is he? He's 29. Jesus, how did he manage to do that? Could he teach a class? Gee, I wish I could be that old one day. But I can't swear off these chocolate bars. Whatever. All right. So, if you want to promote that marriage is a sacred institution between one man and one woman, then here's a good idea. Start lowering the divorce rate among Christians to next to 0 before you start telling everybody else what to fucking do with their nether regions. Get involved in your congregations and talk to people before they get married and go, are you sure you want to do this? This is forever. And this is how we do it. That's why it's meaningful. If you get divorced, you've never been married because the contract says till death do us part. I don't believe in the idea that you've been married if you've been divorced, because it kind of nullifies the whole thing. You weren't really married. You had a relationship with paper. Just how I feel about it. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean your feelings didn't mean anything. Just meant they were more temporary than you thought. Whatever. Okay. But if you want to promote the sanctity of marriage, then work on it. Fucking teach some people how to stay together. Show us all how it's done. Knock yourself out. Because I think most relationships, the long ones that stay together forever are like Olympic runners. They're the people who fuck, man, they really apply and they made it across the finish. Most relationships jog on weekends and not that well at that. And others are like, we do marathons regularly because we do that as a couple. And so they stay together for a very long time and they're holding it together. It's great. And then there's those people like, I don't know, I never had a moment where I didn't look at her face and go, I love that woman. I love her. And those are the ones where you just see an old couple like at the end of When Harry Met Sally and go, oh, I wish, right? That's what you, just like we all watch people in the Olympics going, fuck, pole vaulting seems like so much fun. I don't even know how to get started. Like, that's how I look at like two old people who are ancient, I guess it just happens to you in some cases, but there you go. But if you want to promote these ideas, this is my idea. If you want to promote marriage as a sacred bond between a man and a woman, do it. Don't tell everybody else what they can do with themselves. Promote it. Go, this is how beautiful it is. That's what promoting it is. Forcing it, making sure there's no variant on it, is not promoting it. Denying the alternative is not promoting your product or idea or philosophy. You don't promote Christianity by wiping out every other religion on the planet. You don't promote Islam by wiping out infidels and every other religion on the planet. It doesn't fucking work that way. It's not promotion. So the idea that they're like, we want to make sure that people uphold the sanctity of marriage as a sacred union exclusively between one woman, and we're going to advocate for them. Well, here's a good idea, fucknut. Advocate at home. Advocate in your congregation. That's what you're supposed to do as a spiritual leader. That's what they used to do. Religion, and churches and synagogues and the like played a big part in being basically marriage counselors. So do that. Again, this is not advocating for it if you're trying to eliminate the alternatives. It's silly. Same thing with abortion. Making it illegal is not advocating for the sanctity of life. If you advocated for the sanctity of life, you'd have preschool, and you'd have school lunches, and you'd have pre- and postnatal care for women, and you would make sure that the act of giving birth was, one of the most protected acts in the fucking country. You would donate. Churches everywhere would don't. I agree. A lot of churches still do, K-Link. I'm making a point about these evangelical groups. I'm particularly castigating them. You're absolutely right to point that out. But the churches everywhere would, and by the way, as a Mason who backed the St. Jude's Church, the St. Jude's Hospital, which is a internally secular organization where you can have any religion you want. That's where I think most religions should put their money where their mouth is when it comes to their feelings about the sanctity of life. If you believe life is sacred, then you do everything to protect it when it's occurring. And then, do you know how many abortions you're going to eliminate if you take the fear out of it? If you take the concern out of it, that's where you would do that. And by the way, you don't have to create we got to create a welfare system. We're going to pay for every kid that's born. That's not how it works. No one expects that. But when it comes to charity and the like, churches often are the areas that pick that up. Evangelicals have a special responsibility, I believe, because they're selling the idea. That's what evangelicals are. They're the sales force of Christianity. That's what they've deemed themselves at. They don't live it. It's kind of like a guy on a Cadillac lot or used car lot, and he's selling you a car that he doesn't drive. That's the modern evangelical movement. They all sell cars they don't drive. And what I'm saying is, drive the fucking car. Don't tell me how it rides. We're supposed to lead by example to convince people to join our way, not force others to comply with our beliefs at gunpoint. Precisely. That is exactly the point. So, to me, that's just a fascinating aspect of this argument. Now, I want to show you the best part, though. His audience included dozens of Republican state legislatures, nodding and saying yes and amen. Several minutes into his speech, Robinson brought up Trump, recalling how the then president nominee had courted his endorsement. Robinson's retelling Republican Ben Carson had told Trump that Robinson would only endorse him if they spoke for an hour. Trump protested, saying he didn't want to speak to anyone for more than 15 minutes. The two ended up speaking for an hour and a half. That's because Trump's weak and can't hang up. The man started calling me on his cell phone, and then he started asking me to call him because he thought you can corral voters for him. Ugh. Sometimes 3 times a day, you do not want to open that fucking Pandora's box of Trump calling you. He heard, but he did not always heed. The televangelists then started criticizing Trump, prompting the crowd to grow quiet. Everything you wanted him to hear, every single thing you ever prayed for him to hear came through these lips right to his face. I have no doubt that Trump holds the phone like this. Stop breaking the law! Look, and with the same force you've heard me talking to you, I spoke it to him. By now, Robinson was shouting, practically spitting his words out as he recalled what he said to Trump. Sir, you act like a little elementary school child, and you shoot yourself in the foot every morning you get up and open your mouth. The more you keep your mouth closed, the more successful you're going to be. The crowd remained still. Some lawmakers in the ballroom exchanged glances, some appearing unsure how to respond. Robinson joked that those in the audience must be thinking that approach didn't work very well. It's time for us to get together and pray and stop trying to destroy each other, and I make that loud and clearly heard to Mr. Trump. We've got to quit amputating each other, slicing each other, and come together in supernatural unity for that Jesus Christ prayed for. This is the funny part. Okay, sharp words. Called them a supernatural. Okay, and then tried a diverse thing. They only had Christians. They talk about this, and then, yeah. In the run-up to the... Here's the part that I love. Later in the article. In the run-up to the 2024 elections, the ACL plans to launch a separate 501c4 organization which will allow them to financially back candidates in the presidential election, according to Jason Rappert. They have learned... nothing. Nothing at all. By the way, hi, hello. Hi, chat room, hello. Jesus never prayed over politics. He prayed about the kingdom of God. Well, that's exactly right, Sujit. That's the whole point. That's specifically why I call out Gene the Jesus Machine and Lanny Walnuts and Hank Kuhneman, because they're flim-flam men. They're just like Lynn Wood. Oh, hi, buddy. What's going on? Look who came into the room and was walking around below my feet. Hi. Hi. What you doing? How's my boy? How's my little chipple? How are you? I'm so happy. I'm so happy. There's a chipple. Look, everybody sees a chipple. He likes to lay across my neck like this. He likes to like drape over my shoulder. He's a horse now. He's such a big boy. Oh yeah. Hi. Yeah. How are you? How's my chipples? You okay? Mm-hmm. It's like, ugh, coffee. Dad's got coffee breath. What's happening? What's going on? Hi. Thanks. You want to get down? I'm not getting you a treat. You got me up at 4:40 this morning. You did, Mr. Man. You're in trouble. You're going to listen to me. You're going to listen, and you're going to listen good. You got me up at 4:47 in the morning, man. We do breakfast at 5:30. What are you doing? Okay, here. Hang on, buddy. Go ask someone for a treat, silly. Yeah, you're good. Okay. 4:47 in the morning after I've been sick. Phew. He's turning you into his cat? Yes, he is. He totally is. Oh, wait. Oh, look who we got. Hold on one second. Frances is here with us. I can see her. I'll see if she can see me. 1 second. I've got to set this up. Hold on. Go back to here. Got the thing. As you go. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to turn this on because she's already here and it's fantastic. Set this up. And 1 second. I'll have her in here. There's this guy. And then I got the thing. And then turn this on. And then fix a couple of audio things and we'll be ready to go. It's going to be nice. Hi. Hold on. Dink. And dink. Ooh, there we go. And I think she can hear me now.
I can hear you.
And that's wonderful and wonderful. And then in a moment, you'll be even able to see me. It's going to be magnificent. I have no doubt. Hold on.
And Drift Glass is logged in or not? I don't know if
he's not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
But he will
Get
be.
logged in, Drift Glass.
Oh, there he is. Look at that.
Boom.
Hold on. They can. Yes, they can hear you. And then give me. Yeah, it's beautiful. Now give me 1 second, and I will bring these guys up. I'll be right back. Screen, and we'll fix it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So I'll just fix you guys, and. Okay, here we go. Copy. And it takes me a second to put in or effectively this one. And bring you up. How you guys doing this morning? Excellent. Oh no? You should be. Yeah. I am. It's brutal, and I hope you're ready because it's going to be ugly this morning. I got my list from the Daily Wire. I'm forgiven. I did. Oh yeah. Hold on. Save it because we're definitely going to need this for people. I just need to move you over here. It's so sad. It's bound to happen. There we go. Whoops. Okay, let's go here. There we go. And then I'm moving some stuff around, and then we'll be ready to go. And in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I will say it'll take a second for, there she is, to populate. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, for what it's worth, Drift Glass and bookhal are here from Crooks and Liars, and I gave their Twitter handles as their tags for as long, I mean, almost so we can look back at this like it's a relic from years past. You know, remember when we all had Twitter handles? Hi, guys. First of all, I'm going to, sort of introduce you to everybody, but I think they already know. I'm a huge fan of Crooks and Liars. I've been one of the early links, in my, I can look back on news bookmark tabs and folders that I've had in my browsers for I want to say at least a decade, and it's always there.
Right.
So, and it's crucial. So, thank you guys for the long-suffering work that you do, and for for not simply being what a lot of the other sites that I appreciate, but I'm a little on, that were effectively what they used to call in the 20s and 30s the barrel edition, which is you take the newspaper, you wrap it in a new piece of twine, you pull it out of the garbage, wrap a new piece of twine on it, and sell it as a fresh newspaper to somebody after it had been thrown out, which, I suppose alternate and raw story, depending on which top you use, is the exact same site. In some cases, I appreciate that some of their exclusive stuff, but it's rare and behind a paywall, and I think that's dickish. So, that's right. Neither am I, and all the more reason to support Crooks and Liars because they aren't. Because you support Crooks and Liars when you subscribe or become a member, or whatever the terminology of the current day is. You do that because of the stuff they show, not because of the stuff they don't and only you get to see. And I think that's crucial, especially in our world where we don't have. I mean, look, I know you guys get the Soros checks, but they're in like a Hungarian denomination,
My bank doesn't recognize exactly.
Yeah, I get mine
in. It's all crypto, and it's all gone now.
Right? Yeah, it's in Iraqi dinar coin, which is what the Qs use. So, hi, how are you guys doing? And do you have a plan for if there's a migration? How are you guys dealing with the potential for that shift? Because it's a big one.
You have to remember how Driftglass and I have been on Blogger since we started blogging in 2004.
Right.
They have no staff over at Google for Blogger. They've just abandoned it. So I don't see Twitter necessarily going away because there isn't a staff at Silicon Valley keeping the lights on in a building. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens. I've looked into Mastodon. I've looked into Counter Social, reserve those names. Haven't done anything with them yet.
Yeah. I think that's what everybody's doing is like a foot on.
So.
It is. It's because the functionality that was built into it from the start, it has good, sort of functional social DNA. Because originally it started out as just status updates. Facebook had status updates, but it had all these barnacles of like pictures of your mom's third wedding and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, for God's sake, how am I going to deal with this is ridiculous. So, it was just enough, especially in the original, the 140 characters. That's really what it was. How about just status updates? How about just that? You could just zip through the thing and look at whatever you want and then on. And then as it grew, it grew incrementally, in which I think was healthy. The 420 characters, which is hilarious. And then being able to do pictures, links, and embedded videos, but not moving past that stream point. And Mastodon and all those other things are built on that idea. They're built on the same kind of functional structure. It's just somebody needs to build another portal, kind of like email, is like can be everything, and it's only useful when it's almost everything.
Right.
The same thing is true of, and so Counter Social is basically a Mastodon structure. It's using the Mastodon architecture, but it's narrower in what it does. Mm-hmm. But still, I think that there aren't servers to take all the fucking traffic. I think you're right. It'll stay there. It'll limp along even if nobody's driving it. And I think ultimately Musk's idea is that it's all run by AI with like 4 turnkey executives and a board. Like there are no coders, because do you really need to code it anymore? That's like the Blogger thing that you're talking about. It doesn't need any more code.
No. They just, and they'd like to get rid of it, but too many people are using Bloggers, so they can't. So they just, like you said, get a turnkey thing and let it run.
The fact that we on the left don't own the means of production.
Yeah.
We don't own our own platforms. We don't. We're always dependent on someone's largesse. So, I mean, we were doing Amazon ads for a while, and those were great. And then they just went away. And Blogger one day announced that it wasn't going to be around, and they decided they were. And there's no place for us to go that's ours. We're always borrowing platforms and we're doing a really good job for what it's worth.
Yes.
I mean, we're podcasting. We've been podcasting now for going on 13 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And,
the Professional Left podcast has been almost 700 episodes.
And the thing about Crooks and Liars is you can go back to 2005 and find videos that are gone from YouTube.
Yep.
I mean, they really do have their own platform and their own archives. And I go there all the time. I was looking for David Brooks quotes saying, it's going to be Rubio. It's definitely going to be Rubio. Don't you worry your pretty little head, because Rubio is definitely going to be it. And the place you go to for that sort of thing is Crooks and Liars.
Yeah. Well, I noticed you guys posted a clip of somebody today. I wanted to say it was Sammy Alexander Jr. I think is a clip of him, because it got taken down because Media Matters or somebody put this clip of him up where he was talking about, if you lose the election, it's not rigged, and if I win, it is. Or like if I win, it's not rigged. If you win, it is. And they took it down off of YouTube as election denial, even though it was pointing out that it's like That's what election denial is. Like it's
what it looks like. Yes.
Yeah, right. Just so you can see it. It's like saying we can't show, like that a lion versus an ape will, one of them will be dominant in it because it's too violent. Like, how am I supposed to show you which one would win in this? It's like they would eliminate all natural geographic programming because it would.
This is not
violence.
horror. This is Grey's Anatomy. This is how the body works, and you really need to know that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, no, we just can't do that.
No, we can't. It's gross. So, that's one of the values of the existence of it. And I think the decentralized thing that Mastodon is putting forward is ultimately going to be that way. And Blue Sky, I got to be honest, is him building another version of Mastodon, but just building UIs first. I guarantee there's more than likely going to be a lawsuit between Mastodon, the people behind Mastodon, and Blue Sky when it happens. Because you're basically like, well, we didn't code it because we got enough smart coders, but we looked at your code and we went, okay, we'll just code that kind of too. It just won't be the exact same code because I got enough money to pay coders to write it fresh, as opposed to what Trump did with True Social, which I was saying before you guys came on, is a Mastodon built structure. You're supposed to say so. You're supposed to admit to it. That's why it's called Truth Social, just like you'll see Mastodon.social. They were too stupid to change the name, right? So anyway, so let's move on to some of the actual stuff that's going on right now, because I think we could probably eat our entire hour talking about the what the hells will come from with those things. But
let me say hi to chat room, by the way. Hi, chat room.
Yes, the chat loves you guys, and I wish I could put. Normally, I don't have two guests except on the Saturday show, and it's next level trying to get the chat on screen where you guys could see it and stuff. That's my next big build. So I feel like I've been building a race car with like parts I find on the side of the road, like as I've been going. I started this show pedaling, and now I'm like, okay, I found a lawnmower. I'll hook that engine, and now I'm running on kerosene, and then we'll go for a while and I'll swap it out.
Cash.
I am. That's
One
right.
piece at a time, man. One piece at a time.
That's right. There's a man coming around doing shows. And he even does it when the tech blows. So, yes, it's true. Right. And let's see. And I'm so glad you're not TYT. Oh, that's very nice. Oh, thank you. I agree. So I want to address some of the things that are kind of coming up in the current stuff that, like, the big one, and I was just talking about this before you guys came on, to the evangelicals finally like going, he took advantage of us. Oh, dear Lord. And your kind of response to that, because I know you guys saw that this morning.
Well, if I can just interject to mansplain something.
Thank you.
My wife has a degree in theology from Harvard.
Yes, I do.
Is the liturgist at our church.
Yes, I am.
Teaches Sunday school,
Yes,
and on and on and on. So if you want to talk, this stuff, she's really the go-to person for that.
Yes.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
I think a couple things. One is the evangelical community really caught the dog with Dobbs. The dog caught the car with Dobbs.
Caught the car.
And the fact is, there's a lot of evangelical women who have had abortions.
Right.
And have sent their daughters to have abortions. I lived in Alabama for 14 years. All three of my children were born in Alabama, which is a pretty cosmopolitan city, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I lived there. My ex-husband was president of the ACLU of Alabama. So I've been there, done that with evangelicals and fighting them over control of women's bodies, the law, putting the 10 Commandments up at the State House, the whole thing. But they really caught the car. And when I lived in Birmingham, it was called a shopping trip to Atlanta. You took $400to $700 out of your ATM, and you drove to Atlanta, and you were gone for 2 days, and you came back, and you weren't pregnant with that guy from Adult Sunday School's kid anymore.
Right.
So the hypocrisy within that community is blatant. Yeah. Everybody knows somebody who got pregnant by accident with somebody they weren't supposed to get pregnant.
If they've ever met their preacher.
Right. Exactly.
Because so many of that. I grew up in Peaksmill, Kentucky. Went to Peaksmill Christian Church my entire upbringing up until I moved to Chicago. That was our church. Where I was baptized there when I was 11. You don't even have to be till you're 13. It is. I would consider myself on a religious level more of a universalist than an abject Christian at this point. But it has not affected my belief. You know, it's like the understanding the hero's story in a movie, even if it's told through a different lens. If you watch a Ulysses or a Clash of the Titans kind of story version of it, or Captain America, it doesn't matter. You're still learning the essence of the spiritual concept of the hero's journey in that. The same thing is true for most denominations, as I understand it and as I experience it. That said, we'd have these roll-through preachers, and I'm sure you understand what I mean. These guys who would come in, they would preach 2 weeks in a row, more than likely, so they could just hang out. They'd stay in the guest house that everybody's, tithes had paid for at the preacher's house, or even in the house itself. Knock boots with his wife in a lot of cases.
While the pastor watched.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
and then they would sell their wares. And I remember very distinctly, because we were poor as shit, that there was a guy who came through and was teaching this thing about how humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time. And he had this big 24 cassette tape case of the lies of carbon-14 dating. That carbon-14, was a lie, and humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time. And I think I was 9. This is 1979. That my mom's hot, so the guy gave us a copy of it, kind of gratis, because I was interested, and he was like, "I could give this to your kid," or I was like, and I didn't realize till I was like 14, like that fucker was hitting on my mom when he gave me this.
Hitting on your mom,
totally. And suspiciously enough, we had a preacher who got crushed by his own tractor, and his wife ended up marrying one of these guys, and one was our preacher for a little while, and then they left the state. So that storyline, that running storyline of the kind of like roving preacher, I think is why they like Trump, because they like the prurient value of watching this. Oh my God, here's the titillating aspect of the wine, the women, the demon cocaine, same show, just with the same lie. But now they're not falling for it anymore. Do we take them at their word, or do we?
No.
Right.
No.
Oh, no.
Absolutely
well,
not.
No. As we said on our show this week, the rebranding, the building of the lifeboat has begun.
Right. Yes.
You've already seen this.
And Josh Hawley's leading the way with the Republican Party's dead, and we need to start over, and we need to do this. They cashed all these checks with the Tea Party.
Right.
And we need to call them out on it. You can't keep rebranding yourself as something new when you've got the same elements to build, and Driftglass will talk about this, the same 4 elements you need to build a party are the same all the time. You want to talk about that for a minute, Driftglass?
Yeah.
4 M's.
We did. It's money, media, the mob, and the
party machinery.
And the party machinery.
Yeah.
And we likened it to Chopped. This is your basket.
Yeah.
You must use the ingredients in the basket. There's nobody else out there. There's no new stuff you can bring in. There's no pantry. Yep. You're stuck with the bigots and imbeciles of your base, the party machinery that helped build them, the media that fires them up every 2 years, and the money that the people who fund the Republican Party will spend on anyone. It doesn't matter who will guarantee their tax cuts and their courts. That's all they care about. Right. And you can rearrange. It's like Taco Bell. You can rearrange the same 4 ingredients a lot of different ways, but you're never going to build you're never going to build a boat out of it or an aircraft out of it. It's just what you got. And what they have is not reducible. It's not expansible. Nobody wants to join that. So, and we have been through, this is one of the advantages of being a blogger for 17 years. We've seen this already. We've been through this movie already. After Clinton, they rebranded to make room for Bush. After Bush, we all forgot. George Bush isn't here anymore.
Compassionate, conservative. Right.
Yeah. George W. Bush ran on one domestic agenda item. And he delivered on it. It was getting rid of that terrible surplus, that awful budget surplus that Clinton had. And he knocked that out of the park. But the minute Bush was gone, Tea Party shows up and says, we're not Republicans. We don't know who this guy was, but we hate the black guy, and we love everything Republicans are doing. And then along comes Trump, and these same people suddenly show up again, and they're not independents anymore. And this time they're going to be constitutional conservatives or originalists or.
Well, they never liked the tweeting, Driftglass. Don't forget.
Always no, I don't like what he says on the Twitter, but he does say exactly what I want to say. Yeah. So like that was always the weirdest. He talks just like me, but he should stop.
You should stop.
If he would just stop talking like me, you know, which is exactly why I voted for him, maybe then I wouldn't like fuck off. So it just drives me crazy. So I do think that there is a law of diminishing returns in terms of this, that you can only milk this cow for so long. And we saw it to some degree in the 70s leading up into Reagan, where they kind of caught the car with him. They avenged Nixon by getting rid of Carter by any means necessary, and then they memory hold him into being a shitty president. In particular, when it was clearly. Again, every time we've had a major inflation spike in this country, anytime we've had a major collapse of the economy, it's all been predated by a spike in oil prices, which we had no control over. And the only way you're ever going to get a handle on that is to consumer vehicles need to be off of fossil fuels, and business and like refineries can use fossil fuels, and we'll have plenty. And it'll lower our carbon output. Once we get to that point, we're fucking fine. But we're also no longer attached to the Saudis and OPEC and all that kind of shit.
Right.
So they caught the car with Reagan, and they collapsed the economy in '82, and it was a huge spike, and it was terrible, and blah blah blah. But there was no, obviously no giant pandemic 2 years before. It was their own making. But it turned them into businessmen. It translated that 70s evangelical puffery, and I'm sure you saw it coming up. Like that was the heyday of of all the rising mega preachers that first started, was like mid 70s to 82. Holy shit.
And abortion was the cash cow.
And yes, it was. Remember,
abortion was the cash cow.
Before abortion, before all of that, it was segregation.
Yep.
These were all segregationist Southerners. And that was their big thing. And they were like, nobody's buying this crap. Nobody's buying this crap. And the Catholics are over here going, abortion is our thing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. That could work. We could. Yeah, that's a good dollar. The abortion dollar is a good dollar. Let's get on that dollar.
You smack a baby or a little cute fetus on an envelope, and you make $1 million.
And that's when Reagan opened the door, brought in the moral majority, brought in Pat Robertson, and that was it. And then they're off and running. That's the trifecta. You've got the money. You've got the evangelical mob. And now you're just taking off. And after Reagan left, the first thing the Republicans started doing was start naming highways, naming airports, and putting them on a postage stamp. And just, it's like erasing the former pharaoh's name and putting your own up, claiming credit for everything.
Right.
And it's just been that way ever since. And it's been on an escalating curve, which is why.
Well, and it's been on an escalating curve because of Citizens United, which is the real dog that caught the car. Yeah. People say Dobbs is what's destroying the Republican Party, but actually, Trump is the first Republican president under Citizens United. Citizens United brought all the grifters to the yard on the Republican Party. And all these crazy candidates they have, and Marjorie Taylor Greene nonsense in the House, all of that is precipitated on there's unlimited money for people to spend.
And I would say
spend.
Yeah, I would say that actually is in the dog that caught the car analogy in this particular situation. They actually, now rich mega donors have someplace to put their money besides the candidate's pocket. And in this particular case, Donald Trump came along as a giant tick on that dog.
Yes, he
because
did.
Every dime he takes out of Republican donors' pockets, small donors and big donors alike, goes right down his gullet and down the golden toilet. It does not help elect Republicans.
Ever.
Right. Yep. And the thing about dark money is that it's always, it turns into the noisiest ads, because the one thing about a candidate having to put ads forward is that they have to do that, I approve this message. So that dials them back a touch. It does not do that to the big crazies, like the big, America. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so those folks can just say whatever the fuck they want, but that becomes like numbing. Those are the ads where you're like, Jesus Christ, where they show like, they literally show killings in their ads, people being shot in the street, and then people are like, what the fuck? And that affected the turn. That's where I think that return on investment. The irony is that Citizens United gave them enough rope to hang themselves, and they showed the hangings in the ads.
They did.
Yeah, that's it. And in the candidates, the quality of candidates.
Well, and that's why I lost patience early with our brand new Never Trump supervisors who want to tell Democrats how to run their party. Because first of all, you assholes lost your party. You were driven out of your party.
Yes.
You came to our party that you've been trying to destroy for 50 years to crash on our sofa and eat our food. And now you're telling us how to run things. Secondly, this whole bullshit about if only someone had warned us that the Republican Party was full of Republicans. Like, dude, we have literally been telling you this for decades.
All the like the statements where they're like, he's like this. You're like, like Ann Coulter's statement the other day. I was like, my response to it was like, it only took you 7 years to talk to Trump like I've been talking about him since day one. And it was just as true then. It's not like he changed. He didn't turn bad. Power didn't corrupt him. He was pre-corrupted. He was built for that corruption.
Exactly.
Right. So,
and Citizens United opened up the checkbook. He saw the opportunity. Whether he wanted to be president in 2016 is pretty clear he didn't. He wanted his own show on Fox. Right. And he wanted to be able to bitch about Hillary Clinton for 8 years and cash in on it. And that's because of Citizens United. He saw there was going to be unlimited money for him, and he took it. And WinRed, that's the other thing we have to talk about is WinRed stealing from Republican voters, stealing from the base. That is the untold story. The media, mainstream media, won't talk about it because they're cashing in as well. They're cashing in on the ad revenue. So
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, how, like, because I know, like, Act Blue is basically, is a pretty solid portal.
Well, the difference between Act Blue and WinRed is huge.
Yeah. Yes.
Act Blue, when you donate on Act Blue, it asks you, do you want to support the activities of Act Blue with a tip? And you can say yes or no. WinRed scrapes off a percentage, just like PayPal or any other platform that's actually a for-profit platform. WinRed scrapes off the top of every single dollar donated to Republican candidates through that platform on purpose. This is how Jared set it up.
Yeah.
And we don't know where that money goes. We don't know who owns WinRed. We don't know whether that money goes in Trump's pocket, whether it goes into Trump's buddy's pocket. It's somebody connected to Trump because he set it up. And
they did that other site too that's supposed to be their answer to PayPal that Junior pushes. I'm blitzing on the name right now, which is just like a the crowdsource for righties, which does the exact same thing. It doesn't say like you can give an extra to this part, like even Patreon, which is I think one of the best things. And I have one. Do you guys have one?
Yep.
Yes. What is it? Professional Left for the podcast.
Patreon.com/ProLeftPod. Yeah.
Pro-Left Pod, right. So that they take a slice off the top. I don't have a problem with that because of the infrastructure they built around. Yes, exactly. But on this other site, they are not. It is simply like the illusion that you give to these righty things, and it goes straight there. And a slice of it goes to Trump.
Pocketing that money. Yes, someone is pocketing that money, and you don't know where it's going. So
and it's weird. It's weird that they won't even admit it because nobody has the illusion that something like this doesn't cost money. So either you're going to pay for it with advertising or something.
Right.
Who gives a shit?
Right.
And even if you take a profit from it because you're giving a service that wouldn't otherwise be there, and you take a percentage of it because, who gives a shit? That's how shit runs. Nobody's surprised by that. But hiding it in particular is what makes it super fucking sketchy.
Yep. And then, of course, Trump got caught tricking Republican voters into donating monthly with tiny little print that you have to check and click off. It's an opt-out rather than an opt-in. You can on Act Blue, it's all opt-in. do you want to make this monthly? And they pop a new screen on. Do you want to make this monthly? On WinRed, for the longest time, WinRed gave Donald Trump in October of 2020 an interest-free loan by making monthly donations an opt-out situation. So you give $10 and then they would just charge your card. And I think there was something like $12 million of paybacks, of cancellations. WinRed kept the money. WinRed kept their cut. They would not refund that. That's a service fee. And number two, Donald Trump had that money from October to Election Day.
Right. It was basically an interest-free loan. It was an interest-free loan.
Interest-free loan.
Yeah.
To his campaign.
Which
from credit cards of $5 and $10 Republican donors.
Who ended up paying
criminal.
Remember the dude, there was a guy in Kansas who signed up to give Trump $100 or something I want to say April of that year. And then it doubled on his birthday and it turned out to be weekly and recurring. And he looked at his account at one point and he couldn't make rent and he couldn't figure out why. And it turns out they had scraped $3,000 from his account in like
genuine
7 weeks.
Trump supporter. They treated him like that. I mean, people kind of get upset with me on my podcast about you shouldn't care about these Trumpers, but I really care. I really care that a person who genuinely wants to give to any political campaign, whether they agree with me or not, does so and doesn't get ripped off. It's a consumer protection issue, and it matters. It really matters.
And all the cash appeals are accompanied by a blitz of emails and texts saying, "Aren't you loyal to Donald Trump? Don't you love Donald Trump? What's the matter with you?
It's worse than that, so long. It's worse than that. We're putting you on a list of Biden supporters. We're going to put you on the list of Biden supporters because you haven't responded to Donald Trump's plea for money.
We're going to call you a liberal.
We're going to tell Dad.
We're going to brand you.
Not a liberal, anything but a liberal, man. Yeah.
We're going to let him know. We're going to let him know that you're being disloyal. Man. And
I'm passionate about this.
Yes. Do you guys subscribe to any of the stuff to be up on things? Do you have are you on any of the mailing lists and that kind of stuff? Do you look at the Telegram channels or you subscribe to?
No, I have people. I have people for that.
I think that's why.
There are staff at Crooks and Liars who are on Truth Social and are on other websites, conservative, or have given $1 to be on all those texts. And so we do keep on top of it. It's just not me. I'm an associate editor. I don't have to do that.
What about you, Driftglass? Do you get any of that shit?
Whether I like it or not, occasionally. I'm on a couple of mailing lists. They show up in my email box, but I'm the last of the single shingle independent bloggers out there. So I spend most of my time just hunting stuff down, writing, piecing it together, doing graphics and so forth. But
Driftglass listens passionately to Never Trump podcasts.
I do. I keep track of
really on top of that.
Never Trump podcast. I listen to what they're saying when they think we're not listening. And what they're saying is they think we're a bunch of assholes and that we shouldn't be running anything. And that actually liberals are responsible for Donald Trump.
Oh, it's liberals' fault. Yes.
We called them racist for so long that they became racist.
Yeah, and they just decided if we're going to do the time, we might as well do the crime and be racist. Why don't we do that?
Those people, by the way, are now all over MSNBC. They don't say this shit on MSNBC.
Sure.
But they are now a fully integrated part of the MSNBC programming day. You cannot go an hour on that network without seeing Charlie Sykes or Tim Miller. And it's a huge long list. And people who have wiped their Twitter accounts, who have deleted old stuff they said, who will block you if you bring the past up. I'm like, I'm sorry, but you just burned your credibility because you won't talk about how you got where you are.
Right.
That's the thing that drives me mad is this pretense that it all started in 2016 and there's no past
history to the Republican Party.
Stuff is our motto because.
Well, Blue Gal, this goes into what we were talking about kind of evangelical Christianity, because Alan Watts famously said that modern Christianity is the moral equivalent of a flush toilet. that I make a stinky, and all I do is flick the handle, and it's gone forever. I have I don't even know where it goes.
Perfect. I'm just forgiven.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
And so that
forever.
All they have to say is, all right, fuck Trump, I'm out. And everything they said leading up to it is somehow, non-existent. Now, I'm
washed in the blood of the Lamb, so nothing I said about Trump even exists anymore.
If that changes your categorical behavior moving forward, because you decided, as we know, all decisions in life are made in a second, no matter how long they took you to get there. Right. If you make that decision, you're sticking to it, knock yourself the fuck out. And as long as you're a voting member of the public and you're voting like a normal person and you're never going to vote for a Trump or a Trumpy.
Right. Or you're going to stop voting and go devote yourself to country music and church. If you're going to do that.
Yes. If you're telling me that's the way.
Trump is evil. I went down that hole and I'm never going down that hole again. Hey, I'm all for you.
Yeah, exactly. But the same thing is sort of true of this crowd kind of saying, I'm never Trump, but the stuff he wants.
Yeah. I want to build the wall. I still want to build the wall.
Right.
That's why I'm voting for DeSantis.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, or Ted Cruz, for fuck's sake. That's, I mean, it's just embarrassing.
The National Review we did a little thing about the National Review, have a cover story, special edition this week about no Trump. We're definitely against Trump. We hate Trump. The first paragraph is, and here's all the great things he did. He did all this wonderful stuff, and he cut taxes, and he packed the court, all the stuff we love. But he went too far, January 6th, and blah, 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 blah. And the only reason Biden beat him, feeble Joe Biden beat him, was because he did these other things. And we can't back him. Go back to 2016, exactly the same magazine, exactly the same article against Trump. We're definitely not going to get on board with that. They want what he delivered. They just don't want to be exposed for how
he delivered it, because it lets them know. Right. It lets people know where they're coming from. And again, morally, this is an interesting thing. And I'm curious how we get there. And I'd like to hear from you guys about this, is that one of the reasons why he's been able to stick, and Bernie Sanders brings this up all the time, is because he hits on a note that a lot of people feel with the problem. We agree on the problem. And so he speaks to the problem they have. Now, of course he does, because that's how you do it. Like Hitler did the same thing. Mussolini did the same thing. Fucking Genghis Khan did the same thing. So did Vladimir Putin. We know there's a problem there. I can see the buildings on fire, but you apparently think the way to put it out is with more matches. I think that's where our disagreement is. Mm-hmm. So I think what they think is that by agreeing with what the problem is, that's the same as agreeing with what the solution is. And if they just hide the fact that they agree with his solution, we'll go, well, they're on they understand there's a problem. Immigration obviously we need comprehensive immigration reform. Obviously homelessness is a problem. They're pointing out that homelessness is a problem. So we obviously agree on somewhat of the solution, when we absolutely fucking do not.
Right. Don't forget prison reform. Don't forget prison reform, Hal.
Right.
Once MAGA's in jail, the DC jails are terrible.
Oh, it's horrifying. Yeah. So and people aren't getting their due diligence because they've only had 2 bail hearings where they told the judge to go fuck himself. And if they let them out that day, they would storm the Capitol that second. Like, how dare they? Like, so the question is like, messaging wise, where do we go from here? Because I got to tell you, I think 2 Republicans are probably going to go to jail in the next 6 months because of shit they're doing in these congressional districts. And I think we're going to get control of the Congress back before we know it. Like, it's going to be hilarious, just in time for them to go, here we are. And then like, that's because it's too narrow a window.
Majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we may not have a Speaker of the House by that time.
They don't have a Nancy Pelosi.
They have multiple ballots. They're going to have multiple ballots to try to find a Speaker. So, it's going to be a mess.
And they're all going to write in Trump, and it's going to be fucking hilarious. And then Matt Gaetz is going to be jockeying for position. And like I said, it's trial by stone. It's the fucking Skeksis, trial by stone. Whoopang, But in this case, Chamberlain wins.
Well, our message at the Professional Left podcast is burn the lifeboats.
Yep.
Whenever you see a purple project, a no labels, a moving on, what is the Andrew Yang thing? The forward party.
Forward party, yeah.
Forward party, yeah.
No labels thing.
It's 4 words. Go fuck yourself. That's the forward party.
Has set up the Tesseract Party.
Yeah, we set up the Tesseract Party, which is a party that does not believe true reform happens at the subatomic level. Everyone knows that.
On quarks.
We reject all the false binaries of matter and energy and energy and matter.
Right. You're going to start from scratch.
Yeah,
we built the whole thing is built on a misunderstanding of gravity as a materials based element and not a magnetism based element. And we're going back to what we thought before, which was flat Earth. The reason we have gravity is because the Earth is speeding through the void upwards, covered by a cake dish. A cloche.
Yep. And then we came up with the Mobius strip party, which is we have no idea what side you're on.
Right. Yeah. With them because not forward, not back, not up, not down, just the same direction over and over again. But when you hear
all of those are well funded
yes.
operations, no labels, all those, and there's going to be more. There's going to be billionaires looking to create an off ramp for Republicans.
For Democrats. Well, yeah, too. But yeah,
for Republicans to erase Trump and move on to more tax cuts and
like I said, when they do it to themselves, I hope they vote, and I hope they vote their conscience and vote over what the fuck, because I'm pro-voting all the way. As long as people are voting, they're not shooting each other or stabbing each other about shit. I'm fine with that. But originally the idea is that the attempt was to create chaos in the United States. You would bifurcate the Democratic Party. You would cut it into the Clinton faction and the Sanders faction, and that was Russia's plan for the longest time. And then they just kind of gave up on it and went, oh, actually, the more dangerous, chaotic group, if you cut them into pieces, is the Republican Party. So they're going to try and fracture those guys so that you have violence pop off from a section of these assholes. That maybe they can trigger another Timothy McVeigh from within, because as much damage as the riots around the George Floyd protests created, they were always separated from the protests, never caught on. And most of the Democrats, especially the vast majority, were like, stop. Nobody's for fucking firebombing state buildings. You're out of your fucking mind.
Right.
And we elected Joe Biden as the guy who was most against it. He was like, no, your protests are sacred in the United States. But the minute you pick up a weapon or you throw a bomb, you're not protesting anymore. Fuck you. You go to jail.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And so the question is are the Republicans more apt to go? The Forward Party, when it came out, a lot of people were worried that because Andrew Yang ran as a Democratic potential, that it would slice off Democrats. I don't think that's the case. I think he's more apt to slice off sort of like anti-McConnell, but don't like Trump Republicans.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and we're doing a separate sub podcast called No Fair Remembering Stuff, which is
right.
And right now we're focused on David. These are warm-up exercises, but we're focused on David Brooks for the last 20 years. And what you see when you read through 20 years of history of American media is there's one narrative they sell every time. One goddamn narrative every time. And that's both sides are to blame. Both sides do it. I go to my blog from 2005 and I'm writing about this both sides shit has got to stop. And you see it collapse momentarily and then reconstitute and then collapse again and reconstitute. And all these third-party grifts are built in that space.
Sure.
Where people, and why do you believe both sides are equally bad when it's patently and verifiably untrue? It's because you've heard Chuck Todd say it 1,000,000 times. You've heard it in your local newspaper 1,000,000 times. Because there's a space in our polity for cowards and morons and fence straddlers who don't want to take a side. They don't want to believe the truth about the GOP. So what they do is invent a completely imaginary false equivalence and find a center somewhere. There's always an Andrew Yang waiting there to take your money.
Well, I would say in a lot of cases, like if you look at Russell Brand, if you look at Jimmy Dore, the current state of that argument is it's two legs in the same pair of pants. That idea that Republicans and Democrats, same fucking party, no difference, regardless of the fact that like it's just materially not true. But they don't create it's not like they finally go, there is no other, these guys are together. What they create is these guys are together and they're the Illuminati. There's this greater something. Either it's foreign, if you're right wing, it's a foreign influence like the World Economic Forum or George Soros. If you're left wing,
Trilateral Commission.
It's the establishment, right? Or whatever the fuck that means. Right. It's the systems built for this band, bro. You don't even understand because you're so caught in the web. But the idea is that
sausage fest too. By the way, women don't do that.
Oh shit. Well, it's interesting. They're the sidecar in it, though. Oh, because like the miserable liberal who's on Door's show. She's a sidecar. Like there's always those folks that, or the guests that they have on, like recurring female guests that never reach the level because in incel world they can't. But they always, you got to have these plugins to fill that gap.
They're there to go, oh, your ideas are so big, honey.
That's right. That's all right. Yeah.
Your big throbbing ideas are,
ew.
Pleasure, really.
Oh yes, my ideas are ribbed for your pleasure. I'm creeped out. I'm so creeped out right now. But you're absolutely right. That is exactly that's exactly it, and that's the illusion of Trump. Now, I think my feeling is that he was an anomaly, special to this moment in social media. Like he was at the peak. He was at peak trolling. Trolling is really taking a shit right now because everybody just blurs, just like what you're kind of saying about post Citizens United. You kind of blur those shittier ads out. So they're everywhere, but you're like, I'm straight blue, straight red, whatever. A lot of people are just doing that. The ads just wasted fucking money thrown out a window. It's not really trending anybody. But the same thing, like Trump came as he had this myth of being the self-made man, even though he's a second generation rich kid. He has this myth of being successful, even though he fucks everything up. He's like, like I've said, like he's a born fuck up. He's lifelong fuck up. He knows it's why he hates being called a dope or a loser. His dad called him that all the time, and he didn't call him that for no good reason. His father was the guy who built the actual company. He could tell his son was a dipshit and kind of mean and stupid, and his own mom was like, "We're raising a monster," because he was a second generation rich kid in the 80s, like American Psycho time period, for fuck's sake, right? So, but do you think there's anybody that can pick up that mythology ball and really run through it like DeSantis? I don't think so.
No.
Nobody's got that.
DeSantis has no personality beyond. He knows to go on Fox over and over again, and that's why he got elected in the first place.
Well, they don't have to. I mean, if you're a party that governs from the theory of, I'm going to sugar every gas tank in the Democratic Party. I'm going to stop everything. I'm going to crush everything. I'm going to break everything. And every now and then I'll get enough power to shove 4 lunatics on the Supreme Court, and then I lock it down for 40 years. I don't think there's anybody who can pick up Trump's mantle. But the minute they get a little power, man, the next 2 years are going to be, or until they croak out and flake out and we flip it over again. It's got to be Hunter Biden's laptop. They announced it today. It's
they announced it.
The big crime fighting and inflation plan is Hunter Biden's laptop. So.
Which doesn't exist, by the way, for the record. I have to go on record every time. It does not exist. It does not exist.
No physical laptop at all.
And feel free to at me, bro. Anybody. I will debate anyone on this thing. I just watched fucking yesterday while I was ill, 3 hours of John Paul McIsaac interviews and self-tape videos of himself telling the story 3 different ways to Sunday, how that shit ended up in his hands and who came to visit him and the changing names of the FBI agents that picked it up and it is so embarrassingly stupid that, by the way, they're going to call off some of their own hearings and have them behind the scenes because they don't want the information to come out about where Rudy can't testify under oath about any of the laptop stuff. He cannot because he bought the fucking hard drive for $3 million or for $5 million when they were selling it for $3 million in Ukraine from some Russians that were aligned with Yanukovych, and he knows it. And there's receipts. And if he gets called out, he's going to get fucked. So
Yep.
But I watched like 3 hours of that shit. It's not going anywhere. It just isn't. And it's hilarious. So
I think Hunter Biden ought to show up at the first hearing and say, I'll testify under oath.
Yeah.
Unlike Trump, I will testify under oath.
Yeah,
Put me under
I agree.
oath right now.
I agree.
And then at 11 hours of, yes, I was a drug addict.
Yeah.
Some of this is me. I was a drug addict. I paid the IRS everything I owe. I've tried to make amends. I have cooperated 100% with the FBI on the gun stuff. I was a drug addict. And you're done. And
in the 11th hour and go 10 hours and 58 minutes and go, by the way, Tony Bobulinski is the guy who tried to sell influence through my dad, and that's why we fired him. Night.
Right.
Bye.
I'm out.
Of course he's fucking like saying I hate Hunter Biden and he lied to me about business and his dad was doing it. Because Tony Bobulinski in the emails was literally the guy saying, hey, can your dad help us with this giant deal? Right. And I can get him because I work with his son. And then his son in the emails that they actually show is going, we can't do that.
Yeah,
no,
that's illegal. Right. Yeah. That's illegal. We're not going to do it.
We can't work with a company that's yeah, right.
And you're fired.
That's right. That's how that shit works. It's like the Fang stuff with Swalwell. Like she was bundling stuff, trying to get close to him. The FBI said she's bundling stuff to try and get close to you, and they said okay, and they stiff-armed her, and she went back to China and hadn't been heard from since. Right. That's how it's supposed to work.
And he cooperated with the FBI to name it.
He did the right thing. Well, exactly. At the 11th hour, you look at your watch and you go, "That's a full Clinton. I'm out of here," and you walk out because But the object of the exercise is not to hold a hearing. The object of the exercise is to create a buzzword that Meet the Press will use to ask everybody questions.
Right, a volleyball that Chuck Todd can just keep in the air. Right. It never goes over the net. It never gets spiked. It's never served. It never goes through the round. It just keeps just a constant on your side of the net. It never crosses.
And all those both sides people can say, well, there's something there. I mean, this is the Coach Roberts rule.
Right.
It's there. Yeah. It's out there. Well, yeah, it's out there because you keep shitting it out there.
And they're throwing smoke bombs and saying, well, there's smoke, so there's got to be fire. Like, motherfucker, you're literally the smoke bomb caucus. You know what I mean? Yes. It's just it's a smoke machine. So you're like we got about 10 minutes left. The Trump announcement. So I have my thoughts. I would love to hear because we haven't heard anything but like people going, fuck that guy since except for Qs and super fans, which were like, finally, but everybody who matters, the reaction was just unanimous, like, ugh. So your takeaway.
And that's how we need to treat the Hunter Biden investigation. That's how we need to treat the border investigation, all the fentanyl stuff. Yeah. Don't forget that right-wing media uses 3 and 4 syllable words, Benghazi, Solyndra, fentanyl, words that are not used on a regular basis outside the realm of everyday conversation. And they repeat and repeat and repeat. Hunter Biden, another one, 3 syllables, 4 syllables, to brainwash people.
It's the same thing with Steven Seagal movie titles.
Right. It is.
Above the law, out for death.
We need to do the gigantic eye roll of, again, you're going to try to do baby parts. You're going to try to do Solyndra. Right. This is just brainwashing people to hate Democrats. That's all it is. And I'm so glad to see some Democratic political action committees promising they're going to push back on this BS.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting. I saw that too just recently that they're going to go on the offensive about it, And like I said, the best way you can do this, mockery and yawning is the best way to handle this, because any response, what they're looking for you to do is get emotionally involved. It works the same way as the algorithms on Facebook or TikTok. And if you notice and hello Facebook people, if you notice in the little icon possibilities on Facebook, there's a smiley face and there's a crying laughing and then there's an angry and there's multiple ones. If the angry one actually boosts the clip more in the algorithm than the happy one does.
Sure it does. Because you're more invested. Angry, you want that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It sells
Dark
more.
side
It
is
will.
powerful. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It will carry more. And I think that's, and that's what they take as, if you're mad at Trump, if you go, oh God damn it, he blah, 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 that's a win.
Right.
That's the win. That's enough. That's aha, we got him. He thinks because if you, like we're enjoying the MAGA tears part of things right now. Right. It has the same reaction. Like they're very susceptible to it. I would argue more than our side ultimately.
Oh, it's toddler behavior. Any attention is good attention.
Yeah.
Right.
The tolerant left. I trusted you all to be tolerant, and you yelled at me and called me stupid. And how dare you do that? I think I agree with the political strategy. The longer term strategy is one that we beat like a drum every week, which is both sides don't. I mean, if you take out the center, the right collapses because the right needs the center to keep making a false equivalent, so that people will just shrug and show, I don't know, flip a coin. Who knows? They're both terrible.
And so, what's the number one? What's the number one on the list of both sides don't, Drift Glass? Both sides don't stop black people from voting.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it is a racist party. It stops black people from voting. Mm-hmm. And that has to be the number one thing we talk about all day long.
You can't be on both sides of the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
You can't be on both sides of the Edmund
I'll go you one step forward. Both sides don't stop poor people from voting. Absolutely. There are more poor white people in this country than there are black people entirely. And the Republican Party feels like, and they have for years, that they can jettison a huge chunk of that vote that won't vote because they're either paranoid about it, or they're not registered, or they don't have the information, or they don't have an ID, or all the things that they think will skim off the black vote. They will give up that portion of their own voters, which is, by the way, how Trump got 8 million more votes last time, because of early and mail-in voting. Once they made it universal, that it was more reflective of the electorate than ever before. Right. Biden just stomped that whole thing, and that's why they have to do it. So they're like, we don't give a fuck that the Eastern Kentucky poor people and the Eastern Tennessee poor people and the fucking Panhandle in Florida, fuck them. Because the same way you disenfranchise black voters is the same way you disenfranchise those people, and that's how we clear the decks.
That works for us. The percentage of MAGA that are on SSDI, that are on Social Security disability, and they don't realize which party is coming for their check. Yeah, it's and doesn't give a rat's ass about them. Yeah. Well,
and then I guess the way we wrap up in the last 5 minutes is like, how do we reach those people to finally make them recognize, like, there was a period, I would say, after the Dixiecrat transition, where the non-racist former Democrats had shifted over after the civil rights era, but were a white working class group of people, largely white working class group of people that, for decades, the Republicans and the Evangelicals have farmed for votes while not doing anything about it, which is who Bernie brings up every time, is this, like, Trump touched on something, blah, blah, blah. Like, they've been doing it forever. It's nothing new. And it wasn't really about him touching on something so much as the kind of ignoring of that vote as a base for a long time, and then once they seemed to pop up as sort of racist in the southern swath, that got applied to Pennsylvania working class white people and fucking Wisconsin working class white people, and which again are human to human a much larger group than all the black people in the entire country. And so that's where they've been able to claim these red senatorships, which they take for granted. Because these red states with relatively small head. But
the people that have found the key to that are people like John Fetterman.
John Fetterman, right.
John Fetterman. John Tester is another one who's found the key to white working class men and women to say, I'm one of you. I care about you. I give a rat's butt about what your life is like, and I understand that. Yeah. And to a great extent, Joe Biden, even though he's grandpa, plays that violin a lot. You know, my dad was a working class guy who lost his job and had to move and be away from his family.
And people get tired of hearing it on our side, but they don't understand who it's touching and why.
And that's on the other side.
That's right. That's crucial.
the economic trauma that all of us have been through, the 2008 collapse that a lot of these white working class guys, including my husband, who never saw a full-time job with benefits ever again after that.
Right. Yeah.
That you have to speak to that.
And that's why I voted for Trump, because he spoke to me with a little heart here. He talked to me.
As a union, as a white working class union guy my entire life, because I got into the union when I was 16 years old, and needed to get into the union to work. And that's the only way I could work and get benefits. I have qualified for retirement under SAG-AFTRA because I've been in it since I was 16 years old. And that, that's it. At that time, I voted for, I voted against Reagan the first time I could at 18 as a white working class union guy who had like 3 paying gigs a year in my preferred industry. But the rest of the time I had to just clamor on doing whatever the fuck I could to stay above water. And eventually, like I said, there was a period, I would argue, in the 70s where beyond the obvious evangelical stripe, there was a connection between the kind of blue collar, blue vote, maybe it's at some point like Act Blue does a Act Blue Collar or a Vote Blue Collar, where you're going, we believe in unions, but, and we believe in the safety of the workplace, a living wage, those kind of things. And that the board of a giant corporation is always standing there going, how do we cut, pay and benefits for our people? And that's fine because that's their job and they sell stock and they have to maximize profit. But if there's a group of people, there's a board of directors that gets to work on behalf of the CEO or the owners of that company. And then there's people, there should be an equal group like union reps that say, all right, that's fine. But then the workers are going to get together and have an arguable say going that direction. And we can work something out. We're not here to destroy the company. They're not here to destroy us entirely. Everybody's trying to find that route to, make the most. So we can do that. But I think like that Vote Blue Collar
I like that idea.
is a way to go to remind people that that's who Democrats care for across all racial groups. That is probably the largest swath of humans that Democrats specifically appeal to. And it is the membrane by which poor people will go to being rich if they're not born into that top part early on.
The last job I had, the last full-time job I had was working for the city of Chicago, building public-private partnerships between manufacturing owners, union members, the schools, and the government. And I got those people to talk to each other because they recognized their mutual benefit. All the company owners said this all went completely wrong in the 80s.
Yes.
Because people stopped taking their kids to factories for take your kid to work day, and they stopped and they started shipping the jobs overseas. And that wasn't Democrats doing it. It wasn't Democrats saying shut your factory down, ship it to Mexico. That was Republicans.
It was Mitt Romney. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
That's right.
And
by the way,
hungry for that.
Yes, and I would argue going forward that's a good strategy for Democrats overall is to go on the whole idea of we have allowed them to, and I know we're at 11 o'clock, so I'll let you guys go in a second, but we have allowed them to take certain elements and use that as the idea of being against the 1% because to us it's the 1% of the people who were born into it didn't earn it, whatever. Right. And again, or flat out stole it or got it from another country and brought it here and then took advantage of a system that they don't pay taxes into, which is a bigger part of it. That's the bigger part of it. I don't give a shit. If you came up through and you built your own store, almost even Walmart level, where you started off that way and you built it up into something gigantic, I have a lot more sympathy for that than I have the blood diamond bullshit that Elon Musk was doing, where he just brought this money over and went, oh, the United States has a giant system that protects my intellectual property and everything that I have. I think I'll just set up the thing here and pay no taxes in the process because you started, again, born on third base and thought he hit a triple kind of businesses. It's a huge difference. And I think that's a distinction that Democrats can afford to make
Absolutely.
That bootstrapping through the system that allows you to grow is very different from, from this kind of like, being Eric Trump, for example.
Right.
Well, just the most pro-manufacturing president in modern American history was Barack Hussein Obama.
Right.
I saw him do it. We opened up high schools in Chicago. He created a manufacturing day at the White House. There were press releases every week. Nobody covered it because it didn't fit in with the narrative. Right. Democrats are out of touch and
anti-business. Yes.
Anti-business.
Yes, right.
So,
but it teed up what Biden did.
Yes,
and the CHIPS Act. Exactly. All of the things that are moving manufacturing back to the United States.
And the only downside of Carrie Lake losing is that she didn't get to be governor of a state that is wholly on its feet only because of the CHIPS Act. Like Arizona's entire economy for the next 20 fucking years plus are going to be because of the 9 chip factories that are either built or being built in that fucking state. Arizona, because of North Carolina silicone and the amount of fucking sand and deep ground drilling you can do to bury servers and shit underground in Arizona is going to be a hub of this. And the same thing with like Whitmer and potash. We have just basically erased, for all practical purposes, in the higher levels of things, China from our electronics world and Russia from our farming. And the next step will be fuel, as we get consumer vehicles off of fossil fuels so that only big trucks and other shit need it. And we, reclaim our environment through, getting rid of our fucking lead pipes and stuff.
There you go.
Final thought. What effect, positive or negative, do you guys think the rural broadband will have?
Huge.
Politically.
Huge. Yeah, absolutely. If it's marketed correctly, if it's promoted correctly. I did a pilot project for the city of Chicago on mixing Wi-Fi and WiMAX because that last mile problem is always a problem. You can always get it out only so far, and then you abandon basically everyone out in the rural area. Getting rural broadband to people cheaply and accompanying that with the support infrastructure, building schools around the ability of local businesses and local high schools to take advantage of it as a community, to make it a community place, put them in contact with other people. I think it'll be huge, like the highway system was huge. But everyone remembers that Eisenhower did the highways, and I want everyone to remember that it's Democrats who are going to deliver rural broadband to this country.
Because Republican governors are bragging about how they brought rural broadband to their states.
Voted against it. They brag about it.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that it was HAL Sparks who told the Democrats to tout this as the primary aspect of the infrastructure bill that came forward, and they listened to me. Somebody in the White House, a couple of them watch, and I was like, you want to get the Kentuckians, you want to get the Idaho people, you want to get fucking Montana and all those people, and that's one of the reasons we got a split ticket this time around. It's why people are going to look at Democrats as having actual solutions. They may not understand the removal of lead pipes if they don't live in the Detroit area, even though they won't. They do have lead pipes where they are. And they might not think, well, we don't have that many bridges and our state does just fine, even though they use federal funds to do it. They will understand that, holy shit, fiber optic in Montana and Wisconsin.
High-speed internet. Yep.
That's going to be that sold them all. That sold them all. And so going forward, I think obviously we'll see a spike in them trying to take advantage of it by, growing their voter list and blah, blah, blah. And there'll be more QAnon
and the
Reddits.
next step after that is rural hospitals and rural birthing centers and rural maternal care.
And high-speed rail to connect this entire country. I mean,
Well, I think here's the thing. I've done a big deep dive on the Chinese high-speed rail system and how much it costs versus regular speed rail. And it has uses. High-speed rail has uses on the West Coast and the East Coast, but throughout the country, you'd only have 2 lanes where you would need it to be high speed, which would like a triangle, effectively, which would be like Chicago to
through Springfield to St. Louis. That's where it's going.
Yep. Right. Yep.
Right where we are.
In the south and then up the eastern seaboard as a triangle in the center with regular lines going through the center and small flights going. Then you're good. You don't even have to make them that fucking long. That said,
but all of that high-speed rail work that's been done in Springfield has dramatically improved the infrastructure of Springfield.
Oh yeah, everything else.
With better roads, the underpasses prevent, all the delays from trains coming through the town. It's been fantastic for jobs. So, we need to name it the Biden Express that goes from Springfield to Chicago.
Absolutely.
And we're all set.
Oh yeah, well, it'll be like, it shouldn't just be the train; it should be the way itself. The Biden pathways or whatever, the Biden railways.
Yeah, right.
And absolutely, and I think maybe this is the other mix we can talk about it like next time you guys come on, which is when it comes to rural maternity centers and rural hospitals. You want to talk about a way that the Biden administration could bring in evangelicals that are with their newfound understanding of, well, we should just be about the mission of Christ in life. You bring those people on board and go, hey, the Biden administration is going to make, maternal centers and hospitals top notch in areas where they've been underserved. And you go and make sure that people know it's not just the standard kind of like inner urban situations where there are enough, they just need to be funded, but actually built ones in rural areas, especially next to tribal lands, mixed with like the areas in Montana and or even in Arizona and New Mexico, where you could get the benefit of tribal people could go to those hospitals because they're nearby and healthy, and poor people in those smaller communities could go to those hospitals to have their babies, and there's a support structure there. That's your pro-life vote for Democrats right there.
And then you get the Democratic activists in the Confederacy to put Medicaid expansion on the ballot.
Right.
It passed in Oklahoma. It passed.
Yeah.
Because people realized, and it was a bipartisan thing.
Yeah.
Republicans realized they were preventing abortions by making sure there was a rural hospital with maternal care in the area. And that the only way to get that was to expand Medicaid.
All right, that's it. You both are in my cabinet. I'm just saying. Both of you are in the cabinet. Yeah.
Oh, and one more thing. My stepson, your son, is your biggest fan.
Biggest fan. Junior dude. Our son. You helped him through a really difficult Christmas last year. His dad is a libertarian a-hole. And he would escape that and go to his room and watch HAL Sparks. And I'm going to send you his Twitter handle. Maybe you could follow him.
He shows up going, "Hal's live right now. Come on, let's go."
Oh, that's,
I mean, really,
all day long. True. He watches you twice a day. Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's the story about why I started this stream, why I started the afternoon streams, because I broke down when I knew COVID was going to be worse than people knew, and it was heartbreaking to me. And I'm like, I know I've already felt it. I've already been through it. I know other people are going to go through it, and I want to just be standing there, holding their hand, and going, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. We just you get up, you put your feet on the floor, and you just start your day. And you're going to be all right. And the next day will be there, and the next day. But you got to have hope, and you got to soldier through it. You got to have that optimistic stoicism. So it is. Well, that is a wonderful gift.
You gave him peace last Christmas. So.
I can't tell you how happy and joyful and slightly teary-eyed that is making me right now. So I appreciate it, and I love you guys for coming on. And we'll do it again soon. I have no doubt let's do it if we can. If you have time, let's do it after the December 6th election, because I think we both know how it's going to go. We all three know how it's going to go.
I'm going postcards to voters for Warnock. So absolutely,
that's great. Awesome. So love you guys, and thank you guys for tuning in today to HAL Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to follow Crooks and Liars, and for the time that we have Twitter, Mr. _Electrico and Blue Gal. And then, of course, if you can, support patreon.com/ProLeftPod. And then, of course, mine at HAL Sparks on all your social things until we find our new home. Anyways, until then, I'll see you on MySpace.
All right.
All right. Bye, everybody.
AOL forever, man.
Yeah. 1 second. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Yeah.